WWE Stomping Grounds is this Sunday, although you would never know that after WWE accidentally blasted out a push notification to people's phones on Friday night telling them that Stomping Grounds 2019 starts now. Watch the action live on WWE Network, a full 48 hours in advance. These kickoff shows are getting ridiculous now. The show takes place in Tacoma, Washington, which is the site of the infamous Booker T. Buff Bagwell main event on Raw that officially killed WCW dead once and for all. Hopefully the Stomping Grounds name will be dead once and for all after the show is over. One and done. Kind of like Fatal 4-Way, Great Balls of Fire. In case you didn't know, by the way, the first 100 times they said it on TV this past week, Stomping Grounds is where it's time to kick ass and take names. That's the line Vince McMahon either came up with himself or approved. You know, he came up with it himself. He had to. Because no doubt he thought it sounded cool. And what he doesn't realize is that it immediately becomes uncool the minute you overuse it and force people to say it over and over and over and over again every single week. Michael Cole, he's like a pull-string doll on television saying that line over and over again. His show was originally going to be Backlash and take place on Father's Day last weekend, but the Saudi Arabia show fucked everything up, not just Goldberg's head. The NXT TakeOver show that was supposed to take place in San Jose was bumped up a week and moved to Bridgeport, Connecticut, so it wouldn't fall on that same weekend. And the Backlash show ended up being a victim too. It got bumped back a week, and it moved from San Diego to Tacoma and was renamed Stomping Grounds. And as I said on Twitter when Lance Storm tweeted that fans cannot get invested in these new shows and these new show names like Great Balls of Fire and Stomping Grounds because they don't have kind of the equity of the more established pay-per-view names. I look forward to next year's hybrid show called Stomping Balls. Maybe they'll merge the two of them together. Maybe that way they'll pick up more fan interest in these shows. Tickets have not been selling well for this show. What a shock. They were even doing 2-for-1 deals at one point. Maybe they still are. I don't even know if that's still ongoing, possibly. I was just looking again a little while ago on the Ticketmaster website, and all ringside rows are pretty much gone. But there are a lot of blue dots on the map where seats are still available, kind of spread out throughout the Tacoma Dome. And I say good. Good. When you put minimal effort into making a show feel special, the fans should reciprocate in return. One way to do that is to simply not buy tickets to the show. It also looks like the entire side behind the hard camera is tarped off. It says no seats available at all. When you roll over all of those sections, not a single seat is open. And I do think they do that a lot on their shows these days, where entire sections are tarped off, usually in that area behind the hard camera. But if the demand was there, they could easily sell out a lot of those. Even if they keep one or two sections open for, logistical purposes, whatever the reasoning is. If the demand was there, they would sell those sections out. And literally the entire side appears to be closed off. And speaking of putting in minimal effort, it is also Rematchamania. With most of the top, actually all of the top matches being rematches from either the last pay-per-view or the most recent Saudi Arabia show. And rematches can be okay. I'm not saying all rematches are evil. If they are rematches of interesting matches. None of these matches are particularly interesting or exciting, so it just reeks of killing time until we get to SummerSlam. We have a show we're committed to doing, so let's just get this over with. Maybe that's why they put the push notification out the other night. They were hoping, hey, maybe we'll just put the pay-per-view on now, people won't notice, and we'll get this thing over with as quickly as possible. But I think that's probably how a lot of fans feel going into this show. Let's just get this over with. Like married couples, men who have been married. You get to a certain point in the marriage, when it comes to sex, just get it over with. We have to do this. She wants a kid. Let's just get it over with. That's where the fans are at right now with some of these WWE shows. And it shouldn't be that way. You should be looking forward to it. You should say, hey man, look at this card. This is going to be amazing. I have faith. This is going to be an amazing card. Now, sometimes you set your expectations so low, show ends up impressing you. There have been kind of B and C tier shows where people didn't have a whole lot of excitement going into it, and when it's over, it's like, hey, you know what? That was a pretty good show. Maybe that will be Stomping Grounds. But boy, have they done the bare minimum to get people really invested and interested in this show. This is a completely unnecessary show. Kickoff match, right now we don't know, as I am recording this anyway. We don't yet know the kickoff match. There's a couple of good candidates here, starting out with the Cruiserweight Championship, which sometimes it's on the kickoff show, sometimes it isn't. Can go either way here. But we've got Tony Nese defending the title against Drew Gulak and Akira Tozawa. Drake Maverick, your new, he was the new 24/7 champion. He has since lost it. He made the announcement on 205 Live that since both men technically won, since Gulak and Tozawa technically won in the Fatal 4-Way match 2 weeks ago when they both pinned each other off the Superplex, that they both would be getting a shot against Tony Nese. To be honest, I look at the Cruiserweight stuff, and I'm wondering, again, where's Buddy Murphy? Buddy Murphy is supposed to be on the SmackDown brand. I guess maybe they're just waiting. Maybe they're going to do something with him and Aleister Black when Aleister Black finally debuts. Buddy Murphy will debut too, but he'll be the sacrificial lamb, the sacrificial first opponent for him. Although I wouldn't mind seeing Aleister Black and Randy Orton. Randy Orton's not doing a whole hell of a lot right now. I think that could be a good kind of initial big feud for him. But if they were going to keep Buddy Murphy off television this entire time, why take the title off him in the first place? There was no point in taking the championship off of him at WrestleMania. But I'd like to see them give Gulak a run with it. I'm picking Drew Gulak to win this match. I was going to go with Nese initially, but you know what? I'm going to go with Gulak. He's sort of the resident shooter. He's had really good matches, not just on 205 Live, but against guys like Kushida recently in NXT. I think it's time for the man to get his own run. Give that man the purple belt. I'm going with Drew Gulak. We've got the New Day. Speaking of just completely unnecessary matches, Xavier Woods and Big E back in action taking on Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. This is the match I could see end up being on the kickoff show. This is the best candidate, I think, to expect in that slot. It seems thrown together for the sake of being thrown together, although I guess you could justify it by saying Big E is looking for revenge on the man who temporarily replaced him in the New Day and then turned on his brothers. But that all just feels so forgotten at this point. There was a time after the turn when Kevin Owens turned on Kofi and New Day and went, back to being a heel, although you could say he never really wasn't a heel, that Big E was out with an injury and he was on social media tweeting not comedy nonsense, but actually tweeting like, when I come back, basically I'm going to kill this guy. He's going to come back and get his revenge. And then, of course, we saw Big E, and I love Big E to death, but we saw Big E and it was right back to being the old Big E. With the gyrations and the funny faces, and any semblance of kind of a serious nature to any of this went right out the window. So that's sort of a forgotten story at this point. Kevin and Sami, these two just can't quit each other. They're always attached at the hip in whatever they do in this company. I was kind of hopeful that when Sami came back, they'd keep them on separate brands, let them do their own thing for a change. Nope. Tried and true. Let's just go back to doing the way we've been doing things the last few years. When they die, they're going to stack them up one on top of each other in the casket. These two are in dire need of a win. They've been beaten like a drum on television every week. The idea that Kevin Owens was earmarked for a WWE Championship match at WrestleMania before Kofi Mania took over is comical now in hindsight looking back on it. And there's really no good reason for them not to win this match. So I may end up looking like an idiot for this, but I'm going to pick Kevin and Sami just on the basis of they need a win. And New Day loses nothing by losing this match. We have Bayley defending her SmackDown Women's Championship against Raw superstar Alexa Bliss. Things didn't work out too well for Bayley the last time these two feuded, but I think the outcome is going to be different this time around. That's why I'm picking Bayley to win. I actually think they've done a nice job of building this relationship on screen between Alexa and Nikki Cross, where you just know that Alexa is using this woman, and you're waiting for the moment for Nikki to realize, and unless they swerve us and we come to find out that Nikki knew all along and she is somehow playing Alexa instead of Alexa being the one to play her. Alexa was spreading gossip on TV this week about Bayley, and when Bayley was out doing commentary for the Raw Women, or not Raw, I guess it's women's tag team titles. I guess they could be defended on either brand. Not that they're worth a shit, but you had Alexa and Nikki challenging for the women's tag titles on Monday night. Bayley was at ringside, and there was a distraction cause where Bayley and Alexa were kind of, yelling at each other and engaging outside the ring, and it caused a distraction. And it caused Nikki and Alexa to possibly lose the tag team titles, or their chance to win the tag team titles. And Nikki was very upset about this backstage when the match was over. She said that I'm going to be in your corner. I'm going to be in Alexa's corner on Sunday to make sure that you leave as the new women's champion. Let us not ignore the absurdity of Alexa Bliss, a Raw star, being allowed to challenge for the SmackDown Women's title. Let's just not cave into this notion that there is still any real semblance of a brand split, because there isn't. It doesn't exist. This whole thing is dumb. And that may be the biggest reason why I don't think there will be a title change. You've got a woman challenging for the championship who does not even belong to that roster. Bayley wins this match. I'm going to say Bayley wins this match likely off of a backfired assist from Nikki. But Alexa has already won the verbal war. That line that she used on SmackDown during her Moment of Bliss segment with Bayley, where she called her a placeholder who peaked in NXT, that cut deep. That cut Bayley right down to the bone. Because it's true. And it wasn't all her fault. She had no help whatsoever from the booking the moment she got called up, but she does feel like a placeholder champion who did peak in NXT. So that comment probably hit a little too close to home, but Bayley still retains here. I do expect Sasha Banks to be back soon. I know she's filmed stuff for the video game, and it seems like it's just a matter of when. She's under contract for a while, so it's not like she could really go anywhere. So I would expect her to be back soon. And there's always a chance that, if she's outnumbered Bayley here on this show, which she is, that Sasha could show up. If, let's say, Bayley's being ganged up on when the match is over or something like that, that Sasha Banks could reemerge and come back to help her friend. Although I think she'd be better off, if she does come back to help Bayley at some point, she'd be better off turning on her. Because when Sasha comes back, I do think the best role for her is as a heel, challenging Becky Lynch going into SummerSlam. We have Samoa Joe defending the United States Championship against Ricochet. This is the match I'm most looking forward to on this show. They've done a good job in recent weeks of having Ricochet rack up some wins. On Raw Monday night, he won a fatal 5-way, pinning Miz to become the number one contender for Joe's title. Rey Mysterio is due back shortly from his separated shoulder. I really don't think that they had to take the title off him in the first place if he was going to be back so quickly. I mean, Brock Lesnar went months between title defenses, and that was, in theory, a far more important title, and yet Rey Mysterio misses, 3 weeks? Maybe 4 weeks? Has to forfeit the championship on TV? I mean, it's ridiculous. But that being said, this could still set something up cool for SummerSlam, and that is the first ever WWE meeting one-on-one between Ricochet and Rey Mysterio for the United States Championship. Now, these two met in Lucha Underground. It was almost like a passing of the torch between the two of them. They met in Lucha Underground when Ricochet was Prince Puma. But I would not have Joe drop the title just yet. Not in Ricochet's first title match. He's been winning lately. That's great. He can take the loss here. Come back next month and either win the title then, or maybe Rey comes back and they set up a 3-way for SummerSlam and have Ricochet win the championship there. But had they just kept that title on Rey and not taken it off him, they could have built Ricochet up slowly for a championship match, one-on-one with Rey at SummerSlam, and have him drop the title to Ricochet there. But that's neither here nor there at this point. I predict Joe to retain here. I think he should retain. But I do think the money match for SummerSlam is Rey and Ricochet. Heavy Machinery, well, I mean, to the extent that we even have money matches anymore in WWE, I mean, what does that even mean? Heavy Machinery challenges Daniel Bryan and Rowan for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. I'm a fan of Otis and Tucker, more so Otis than Tucker. This is their biggest match to date on the main roster. But they're a comedy team. And that's how they've been portrayed. And Daniel Bryan went from being WWE champion just a few months ago to being one half of the tag team champions. Wrestling in a match, by the way, that could be another candidate for the kickoff show. So he was the WWE champion. A few months later, he's one half of the SmackDown tag champions. You know, just to what? Lose the heavy machinery? I mean, I love those guys, but no. No. And they'll have other opportunities. You know, heavy machinery's only been on TV for, when you think about it, really, it's only a few months. Still very early in their run. They'll have other chances. Bryan and Rowan should win. I think they will win, and so they're my pick. Then we get to Becky Lynch, defending her Raw Women's Championship against Lacey Evans. They finally acknowledged Lacey's service on TV this week as a U.S. Marine. They used to mention it occasionally in NXT, but I believe that's the first time it's really been brought up on the main roster. It doesn't match or jive at all with the character that she portrays on TV, but I think it's worth mentioning, you know, for anybody who thinks that this woman lacks toughness or she's too soft. That said, I was done with this feud a month ago. It has to end. They've used it to try to establish Lacey very quickly on TV because I'm sure they're very high on her. I'm sure Vince McMahon takes one look at her and he's high as a kite on this woman. That does not mean that she should be the champion. And I believe it has to end with Becky Lynch cleanly retaining her Raw Women's title. Because of Lacey, she went from being Becky 2 belts to Becky Red Belt. And to strip her of her one remaining title, to give it to Lacey Evans, would be stupid. Becky is still one of your star attraction. May not always seem like that when she comes out on TV. Those reactions, it's not quite what it was before WrestleMania, but still, she is positioned as one of the star attractions on either brand. She's one of the biggest stars in the company. You're going to take the other title off of her? And Lacey only debuted just a couple of months ago. The only outcome here should be Becky Lynch retaining her championship. In a rematch of their WrestleMania rematch on Monday Night Raw last month, I bet some of you forgot that happened, Roman Reigns takes on Drew McIntyre. I think the Shane McMahon show, I said this last week, I'll say it again, it is completely overdone. I will give credit where credit is due. That was a good segment on Monday, though, with Heath Slater coming in, Shane celebrating backstage with Drew and the Revival, and they're drinking champagne and they're eating. And Heath Slater comes in, he says, look, I need a raise. I got kids. I got to support them. What are they paying these guys that they have to come beg for a raise? I got kids. I got to support my kids. And Shane turns him down and sends him on his way. Then he gives Drew a little wink. Now remember, Drew and Heath have history. Obviously, they were in 3MB for a very long time. So they go back a long way. And Shane kind of gives Drew a little wink. And off Drew goes into the hallway. Heath's on the phone with his wife. He's got his wife on speakerphone, going to give her the bad news. Over comes Drew. He's portraying this sense of, not regret, but just he's very sad. He feels sorry, which is the worst thing you could feel for. I feel sorry for this person. This person is so pitiful. He feels sorry for Heath. He reaches into his pocket. He pulls out some dollar bills. Heath's like, no. I don't need your money. Drew insists. Then he drops the money on the floor. Heath bends down to go pick it up. And Drew beats the shit out of Heath Slater. Like a giant asshole. Just a great heel. I thought that was great. Even better were Dash and Dawson coming out to break things up while picking up the money and stuffing it into their own pockets. Make that money while you still can, because I'm sure they're still 1 foot out the door when their contracts are up, but they're picking the money up off the floor. Having Roman pin Drew as quickly and as decisively as he did at WrestleMania was a mistake. That match was a disappointment. The people, I was in the building, and I could tell you the people were so disinterested. I think that might have come right after the Kofi match, so that may have had a lot, that and the fact that it was a 7-hour show probably had a lot to do with the lack of enthusiasm for a match that had nothing on the line. It was just a regular singles match. It was a Raw TV match. So it really isn't all that surprising that people were not really that interested in the match, but people were so disinterested they started doing the wave. Just a waste of a match, but They wanted to give Roman a big win back from his fight with leukemia. But it did McIntyre no favors. Here's their chance to make up for that. Even though Roman lost at Super Saudi Showdown because of a Claymore kick from McIntyre, he just lost to Shane McMahon. So a lot of people are probably looking at this going, well, this is a slam dunk win for Roman. He's coming off a loss to Shane. He's going to lose again. Yes. Yes, he should. The end goal should be Roman, and I'm sure it is, the end goal here, and maybe they're going to drag this thing out to SummerSlam, but the end goal here probably is Roman destroying Shane McMahon, getting his win back, and ending this frickin' feud once and for all. But Drew should get the win here, and I think he does. I'm picking Drew McIntyre to win over Roman Reigns. I'm betting against the big dog. A dangerous move, I know. But I'm picking McIntyre to win, especially if the goal, and maybe it isn't, but if the goal is to get him to a Universal title match sometime in the next few months, maybe even next month at Extreme Rules, or at SummerSlam, or whenever it may be, against Seth Rollins, then beating Roman should be a no-brainer. We've got Kofi Kingston defending the WWE Championship inside of a steel cage against Dolph, it should have been me, Ziggler. He should have said, it's gonna be me, at Stomping Grounds. Then he could have joined his own boy band. Dolph and Kofi in their careers have had dozens of matches against one another, dating all the way back, I looked this up, dating all the way back to their dark match at a Heat taping in 2008. So when I say dozens of matches, I'm not exaggerating. These two have wrestled each other a lot. Okay? A lot of matches. And they've had some great ones. Their match at Super Saudi Showdown was not one of them. Inside the cage, I think they should have a very good match. Maybe they steal the show. But I cannot find it within myself to be even the slightest bit enthusiastic about any of this. We know Dolph is a placeholder en route to whoever the actual person is who is going to dethrone Kofi, whenever that may be. It will not be at Stomping Grounds. All the times over the years that I thought, you know what, this is it. This is it. This is Ziggler's moment. They're going to give him the ball to run with it, and then they would yank the ball right back from him. 10 years of this. 10 years. A decade of start and stop with Dolph Ziggler. And they expect people to suddenly buy this guy as a credible threat? Why? Because he's been attacking people from behind and he cuts a bunch of whiny promos? All of a sudden we're supposed to buy into this guy as a credible challenger? You know, Kofi was also around for about the same length of time. And not a lot of people ever saw him being WWE champion. But the fans took to him. It was the right moment. Ali went down with an injury. They plugged Kofi into his spot. And Kofi Mania just took off. You can't predict these things. At the beginning of the year, who would have ever predicted something like that would happen? Who would have predicted that Kofi Kingston would be challenging and winning the championship at WrestleMania? That people would be most looking forward to that story going into WrestleMania. It was the best built, best booked story going into WrestleMania this year. I guess other than, you could say, the Becky and the Ronda stuff. You can't predict these things. But it was a rare case, so close to WrestleMania, which is also pretty unusual, that they went with their hot hand. Yeah. They saw the crowd reaction and they decided to go ahead and run with it. What a concept. We hear you. Let's follow along and give the people what they want. Can't always do that, but in this case, it was a great story. Got a great payoff at WrestleMania. But with Ziggler, he never had his shot. Yeah, they put the world title on him when he cashed in Money in the Bank, and then a month later he got kicked in the head by Jack Swagger, and that was it. Even still, I doubt very seriously that championship would have stayed on him for very long. I just don't think they ever saw him at that level. And maybe he was too good for his own. I've heard people say before, about guys who are very good at making other people look good, or selling big moves. Kurt Hennig would oversell everything, but it was comical. It was entertaining to watch. But, and this is not a universal thing. I mean, Shawn Michaels, I think, was also in his prime very good at this, and he ended up having a great career and becoming one of the best of all time. But it could also work against you, where they see you as somebody, hey, this guy really excels at putting other people over and making their shit look good, so let's just use him in that role. And that's sort of what Dolph's career has been defined by. It's been less about getting him over and more about putting him with people that he can make them look good and help get them over. So, him kind of being that kind of performer may have actually worked against him more than anything else, but his big moment just never came, and it never will. I think it's pretty safe to say that I don't think it ever will. He is a person you plug in there, as they have been doing for about a month or so, and the only reason he even got the title match at the Saudi show is probably because Kevin Owens, maybe he didn't want to go to Saudi Arabia. Well, we need a WWE title match, so what are we going to do? I know, we'll plug Dolph in there. Well, hey, I'm sure he got a good payday out of it. It's not like there was some big, I doubt there was some big creative meeting where they said, you know who we need in this spot? Dolph Ziggler. That's who we need. That's probably how he ended up in this spot in the first place. So they plug him in there for a month or so, and he goes on TV, oh, it should have been me. It should have been me. Yeah, 5 years ago. 5 years ago, maybe it could have been you. I guess Vince didn't think it was such good shit. Unfortunately for him. Tough break, pal. Kofi Kingston retains. And Baron Corbin defends. I'm getting ahead of myself here. God forbid. Baron Corbin challenges Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship with special guest referee. Well, we don't know. Special guest referee is to be determined. So exciting is this main event pairing between Seth Rollins and Baron Corbin that they are selling the match, and really they're selling the show, almost entirely around this mystery of who the guest referee is going to be. The guest referee for a match that nobody cares about. Paul Heyman claimed on Raw that he would not be the referee because you'd have to be, in his words, a dumbass to want that spot, given how Seth Rollins on Monday was running around, mowing people down with a chair, anybody who he thought might be open to being Baron Corbin's pick to be the referee. Beat up Elias with the chair, he beat up EC3 with the chair, he beat up fucking Eric Young. He didn't do anything wrong. Beat him up with a chair. Brock Lesnar is the likely choice for this role. We've already gotten Boombox Brock. I could easily see Referee Brock. But of course, it wouldn't make any sense at all if it is Baron Corbin's pick. Because if you're Baron Corbin, let's say you win the Universal title, and I don't know what stage of hell that would be. And I am half joking when I shit on Corbin. Not totally joking. I think Corbin is actually a capable heel. And there are times when he's cutting a promo and shitting on the fans, and it's actually kind of funny. My issue is that he's boring. And he does not belong in main events week after week after week. I don't want to see him in main events. I don't want to see him being the focal point. He could be a perfectly capable heel on the show. Maybe he can be the Intercontinental Champion, the United States Champion, create his own title, the Applebee's belt, whatever. That's fine. But it's him in this position that I cannot stand. But they're not doing him any favors if they have Brock Lesnar as his choice to be the referee, because think about it. If he wins the Universal title, the minute you win that title, what's to stop Brock Lesnar from immediately laying waste to this guy and cashing in? So if he picks Brock, he's an idiot. Then again, this is the same Baron Corbin who tried to use a steel chair in his last title match and almost got himself disqualified, and that he argued with the referee until he got rolled up and pinned. So, you know what? Choosing Brock would probably fit his MO. Or, if it's not Brock, and I was thinking about this, reluctantly, but I was thinking about this, it could be a setup for Shane McMahon to become the referee and try to screw over Roman's best friend by screwing him out of the championship. Yeah, we don't have enough Shane McMahon on TV. He's not feuding with enough people. Let's add Seth Rollins to that list as well. In the end, Roman could come out, help even out the odds. Seth wins in the end and retains the title. But no Brock. Brock ends up just not showing up. People think he's going to, but they never actually said he would be on the show, so it's not false advertising, and Brock never shows up. I would not discount the possibility of inserting Shane into yet another segment that he has no business being in. But we need Corbin out of these main events. I fear we're not done with him just yet because, spoiler alert, the advertising for Extreme Rules next month has the main event as Seth Rollins and Baron Corbin in a tables match. Yes, serving tables at Applebee's. Anyway, let this be a case of the card is subject to change, because 3 matches in a row of this is 3 too many. Seth Rollins is my pick to retain. I don't think I'm being overly dramatic here with that pick. I would wager that about 95+% of you listening are probably picking Seth Rollins to win as well. Now, one last thing I wanted to mention here, and nothing has been announced for the show. Maybe there'll be a new Firefly Funhouse segment. Maybe there won't be. But where might Bray Wyatt fit into this? Could Bray Wyatt be the referee? It's possible. If they wanted to kind of swerve people, if they wanted to shake things up a little bit, make things a little more interesting in a main event that, interesting is certainly not the word I would use to describe it. That's one way to do it. We have yet to see Bray in an arena setting. We have yet to see Bray back in the ring. We've seen the Firefly Funhouse segments. We've seen Bray wearing the sweater and the man bun. We've seen The Fiend. We've seen glimpses of The Fiend in the new mask, but we haven't actually seen him in the ring. Any week now. He could debut any week now. Now, I've said before that I think you got to give this guy, The Fiend, whatever you want to call him, you got to give him a memorable debut. You got to think Kane in 97. This guy's got to have an impactful, memorable, sinister debut. And I think you put the championship on him not long after he comes back. Maybe you build to it over a period of a few months, but I think the title should be the end goal. He could be the top star, one of the top 2 or 3 stars. Let's say he's on Raw, on the Raw brand, or really on either brand. If you're going to go all in on Bray this time, then do it the right way. Certainly don't do what you did with him before and have him cut spooky promos and then lose every single match that he's in. This guy could be big. And I don't think it'll be very long before he's turned babyface because the fans are not going to boo this guy. I don't think. But that's how I'd like to see this new Bray persona kind of debuted. But there's another way that you could go with it. Again, I don't know logically why Baron Corbin would want to pick him to be the referee, but let's say he were to end up being the referee. I don't think he will be. If he's going to be the referee, then it's got to be Bray wearing the sweater. It's got to be good guy Bray. And maybe at some point he gets pushed around, he gets pissed off, Corbin, punches him, smacks him, does something that really pisses him off. He has the hurt and the heel gloves, right? Maybe he puts the hurt glove up to his ear, lights go out. Come back on, he's got the mask on, and again, I don't know how the hell you would do that, because if he's wearing a sweater and he's, dressed up that way, it's going to take more than the lights going out for 10 seconds, I think, for him to be in the full, his full heel gear. I just don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. You could probably do something like that if you wanted to. That's not the way that I would re-debut Brock, or Bray rather, on this television show. But there are people saying, oh, maybe it's going to be Bray. Could be. But I think Brock and Shane are still the 2 most likely candidates to end up in that referee spot. But I don't think Seth is dropping the championship, at least not until SummerSlam. And certainly not to Baron Corbin. Even losing it back to Brock Lesnar, I just don't see what that accomplishes. People are talking like it's almost like a foregone conclusion that when Brock cashes in, he's getting the belt back. I look at it the complete opposite way. I think Brock Lesnar is going to end up being one of the rare Money in the Bank losers, like John Cena was, or Baron Corbin was. I think it's way more likely he cashes in and doesn't win the championship than him winning the championship, because what does that accomplish? After so long waiting to get the belt off of this guy, just to put it back on him? There's a lot of things you could be doing with Brock. He doesn't have to have the title. So I hope that's not their plan, is to just have him cash in and, well, he's got the championship back. Well, so long. See you in a month. I just don't see what that accomplishes. So that's your Stomping Grounds card. Hit the sub button here on this channel if you have not already done so. Whenever new content goes up, you will be the first to know. You'll be alerted. Episode 605, the full Solomonster Sounds Off goes up on Sunday as usual and Sunday night. I may be doing a live stream again. If not, either way, there'll be a full review of Stomping Grounds that goes up Sunday night or very early Monday morning. Follow me on Twitter. I'll let you guys know if I do a live stream. Maybe we'll take phone calls at Solomonster on Twitter. But otherwise, hit the sub button. Keep it locked in here. Full review of Stomping Grounds coming up on Sunday night right here on YouTube.